So as I was saying, I just cut myself off anyway because I unplugged the camera. I didn't think about it because I had to plug something else in. But I met this other woman that he was staying with. She was older. And I thought she seemed nice. They would stay up sometimes very late at night and talk. One time they were talking all the way, it sounded like all the way through the night. I didn't even know what they were talking about. But they definitely kept each other entertained. And she was as old as I was, or maybe a couple years younger. She even could have possibly been a couple years older. I think she's a couple years younger. But I think for whatever reason he connected to an older woman as friends or anything else. I slept in the same bed as that he did, and nothing ever happened. Sometimes he slept on the couch, but when the couple of times that, I shouldn't say that, it's not even necessary, but there was just nothing occurred at all between us, nothing romantic. I'm sure something could have if I'd wanted to, but I was traumatized from having my son taken from me. I was still in shock. And basically, after my son had been taken from me, I was staying at that hostel in Blaine, and this woman's son there, he expressed an interest in me and wanted to get close, and I didn't want anything to do with it. And then this other young man did, and I didn't want to have anything to do with that. I was just trying to figure things out. And anyway, she had divorced from her husband. So she was in sort of new circumstances, and she worked at something like H&R Block, a bank. I know for sure she worked at H&R Block. And she was a very experienced driver. She drove around the racetrack with her husband. They did like serious, I don't know if it was just a hobby or if they actually made it into more than just a hobby, because they may have even done a few races. Not like, huge, but she was very experienced in that regard. I went to a couple clubs with them and danced with people, but then I couldn't keep track of where they were when we were at the dance club. It was very crowded. And I really liked dancing, but I didn't like dancing by myself. I didn't like feeling like I don't know where she is. I knew that they weren't going to leave me there and that we would all leave together, but I didn't know where he was, and he didn't really love to dance. And I didn't know where she was. And she wasn't dancing next to me, so I was sort of dancing with strangers, which was, people I didn't know, which was fine. A lot of people can be pretty friendly, in fact, at clubs like that, and, include you into a group. There's a lot of nice gestures in that regard, but I was on my own. I was basically dancing with total strangers and felt completely, I had no idea what they were doing, so we were each doing our own thing, and then every time I saw him, he wasn't next to her, and every time I saw her, I actually never saw her. I don't know where she was, but anyway, I had to get a little bit, I had to have something to drink with caffeine because I'm tired. So we were at this dance place. We went to a casino. at one point, the people in the casino were really rude to me. And I sort of thought that she maybe knew that they were going to be rude to me. Because the two of them went into this one area that was like sectioned off. And then when I went over to that area, they said that I couldn't be there. And that was, I believe it was because I didn't have my ID with me. I'd forgotten my ID. And they asked for it, but they did know her. They knew the woman that was there. Who knows? I think they were just doing their job. When I now look in hindsight back at everything, I think, well, maybe somebody told someone that I have microchips in my neck, and guess what? You're on candid camera. Or you're on candid audio. You know, I'm so a good thing for those who knew about me, and what a disadvantage to those who didn't. Which is very, very imbalanced too, because probably the only people who knew were people who were high up in crime, and then maybe passed it down to others, that information, or people who were high up in the government in some way, and could use it against others if they wanted to. And, you know, against me. I mean, I was under 24-hour surveillance because I had surveillance in my body. And I don't think that is all. I believe that my phones were tapped still, because just because they have surveillance on me doesn't mean that they were able to know who was calling me and what our conversations were, that kind of thing. And so, I mean, I'm positive that was used to my disadvantage in my lawsuits, because somebody just seemed to know. Mainly it was through Krista, though. She would ask different things, and I'd tell her over the phone. And all of a sudden, you know, someone's beating me to the punch on exactly what I just talked to her about. So, and it really was noticeable after I had met the FBI. So if Raul and Armando had not put bugs in my house, or if they weren't already there, or there wasn't already a phone tap, possibly somebody else in the FBI did, or the police had something that they could point towards my house and listen in, because they were passing information on to others. If it wasn't Krista, it was somebody else. And as I've said, I knew enough about Krista to know that, based on her our conversations, I mean, that's why I didn't blame her right off the bat. I didn't want to assume anything. I thought that there are other possibilities. And that's why it took me so long to feel that I could conclusively say that she had a part in sharing information about me that was to my own detriment. But it took a long time, because even if I had instincts and everything else, I never wanted to rush to a conclusion on it. And I think I continued being friends with her too, partly like towards the end, to figure out a little bit more. So then if anybody knew that I had implants in New Mexico, I didn't know that they knew. And then we were at this one casino, we were at a couple clubs. That's about it. And then hung out at their house, and we went to Olive Garden one time, had something to eat. He said go ahead, and if you stay here, you could probably get a job. I will put in an application or talk to somebody. I know somebody there, and you could work at Olive Garden or work as a waitress someplace. And I considered it briefly, but I thought, even if I worked for a week or two, that's just going to be more, it would be a little bit more money, but more time would be down the drain, and I wouldn't have gotten to the the part of the United States that I thought might have some of the medical facilities that I needed to go to, if possible, to prove that I had been tortured. So I chose to have them drop me off after they dropped me off. A few other things happened too that I was taken to. But they chose to drop me off at a truck stop that I wanted to be dropped off at. And actually it was maybe not them. I remember it was one of the neighbors that I got a ride from. And then I was there, but when I was there after I had contacted the FBI. And I remember when I contacted the FBI, I was in sort of like a subway in New Mexico, and I was using their Wi-Fi. And then I had made a phone call outside of the subway about the situation. And the FBI, and I said, I would just like to have, I said, I don't feel safe now that I said something about a judge. And I've just left this other state and I need to be going towards the East Coast. And I said, if there's any way that I could just somehow get a bus ticket. I asked the FBI if they would give me a bus ticket so that I could just be in a safer place. And you know what? After all of the things that they've done to me, they couldn't even give me a bus ticket. So they said, where will you be? And I said, at the truck stop. And I was hoping that, so instead of getting a bus ticket, which couldn't have cost that much, and I would think that given their knowledge of already the dangerous situations I had been in, I was getting death threats. And I think that possibly, I believe a couple of the death threats had already occurred in Wenatchee, Washington, regarding a different judge. I don't remember right off the top of my head if there was another death threat, like if somebody came up and tried to threaten me after I said something about this woman, but I don't think so, because I was right there on the phone with the FBI, and I was telling them about death threats. I remember I said something about it. And that was true because I was outside of the CPS visiting offices, sitting on a bench after a visit with my son, or waiting for my son, and this man talked to me and said, he's the only person, if he was a good person, I really hope that he was safe. If he was just trying to cause problems, well, he definitely did that. But I hope that he's okay wherever he is, if he was just trying to give me a heads up, because what he said is there are about 10 judges that have you on their list and who want to do harm to you. And I said, what do you mean? He said basically they want to kill you. He didn't say come straight out and say kill you. He said something about, he did say kill you though. He said, he didn't say they want to murder you. I don't know how he said kill you, but he made it very clear that there was a judge or a group of judges, and he told me that there were over 10 of them, that were colluding against me to do harm to me. And I had filed this one lawsuit in the state of Oregon against some judges and federal workers for anti-competition and monopoly. And a lot of judges had done some illegal things, and then when I was back in Washington State, that continued. But he also didn't seem like somebody who would just make something up out of the blue. And he said that there was a judge in town that did that was heavily involved with some kind of crack and cocaine type of a ring.